Hey there in YouTube land, and today we're going to be talking about movies, but we're going to be talking about it in a slightly different way. Um, Music is extremely important to a film. If you don't believe me, just go and YouTube the ending to the original Star Wars with no music on it. It's absolutely awkwardly hilarious. The same thing, try watching Halloween with the sound on. It just doesn't sound very scary. But am I talking about scores today? No, I'm not. I'm talking about the master of the soundtrack. During the 1980s, soundtracks became pretty much it. MTV had come about, and here in Canada, Much Music, and every popular movie was hit towards my demographic, which was like the pretty much the teenager, and we were into our music and into our movies. So movies and music, kind of like peanut butter and chocolate, came together to make this one wonderful combination. And with there'd be movies that would basically live and die on their soundtracks. That's why there's so many of those John Hughes movies, and you can just like it's like a time capsule of that period. But there's one singer that beat them all throughout that, and he actually got his start writing a song in a movie that was very famous, and that he didn't sing the song in, and that was the 1976 version of A Star Is Born. Barbara Streisand sang the song "I Believe in Love" in that movie. That movie and that song is actually a Kenny Loggins song from his debut album that became very popular in the A Star Is Born. Which apparently it's rumored that at one point he was actually attached to be in the film, but decided not to. Whether that's true or just movie myth is only him and the producers know. But most people nowadays know Kenny Loggins for things like, the music that he does now, or if you're a video gamer, probably from Grand Theft Auto 5, because he's the voice of the disc jockey for Los Santos Radio. But how did the music and movie start? Well, it started in 1980 with a little movie called Caddyshack, which would become a huge hit. And it was a fantastic movie, but a large part of that success came in the song "I'm Alright." And if you haven't heard it, you owe it to yourself to hear it. It's a fantastic, classic, just not just a classic it's a classic soundtrack song, and it pretty much gets the beat and the tempo for the Kenny Loggins songs to come. You could sell a movie on a Kenny Loggins song. In the 80s, that's back in the day when people were looking for like somebody to score, and they like knew they were going to get John Williams, or they knew they were going to get Bernard Herrmann. In the 80s, if you had one of these style movies, you knew you wanted Kenny Loggins on there, because that meant that soundtrack was going to sell. You could have a bunch of crap on the rest of the soundtrack, but that Kenny Loggins song would go straight to the top and become a hit, and make your movie hit with it, because the kids right then were watching MTV, and what they watched on MTV they wanted to see in the theaters. Follow that up with Footloose in 1984. Footloose was the one that really brought soundtracks in the 80s to a forefront. If anything made people dance again, you got to remember in the early 1980s, well, in the late 70s, early 80s, disco had a horrible death. So people were listening to music, but people weren't dancing so much. People were taking it a bit seriously after disco. They did disco record burnings back in the day. That's how bad it was. You know what? Disco wasn't that bad. Actually, I thought disco was very fun, and you actually still hear it today, especially if you listen to the recent Daft Punk album. Footloose was a movie that just came out at the right time. It had fantastic actors, but more than that, this movie would live and die on its soundtrack. And if you doubt that, watch the new Footloose. Good Lord. Great dancing in the new Footloose, but oh my God, is that a train wreck of a soundtrack on that one there. The music just doesn't suit anything at all. Now, everything in the movie Footloose, now this was a solid soundtrack, but it was anchored by Kenny Loggins, who did two songs on it. He did "I'm Free," which is kind of a nice little kind of a power ballad type of thing. Has a nice crescendo and a beat going up to it. But he did the song Footloose, and Footloose is just such a fun, boppy song that when you hear it, you hear the first strains and the chorus comes out, and you know this is a song you're going to tap your feet to, you're going to dance to. This is what Kenny Loggins is famous for. This is what his mastery is, to make you want to dance, to pump you up. His movies, his music is like the perfect for any trailer. You put the Kenny Loggins song on the trailer, and people will go and see the movie. And this is what happened again in 1986 when he did Danger Zone for the movie Top Gun. Tom Cruise movie that's insanely popular, and apparently they're making a sequel of right now. And I don't really see how they can make a sequel of Top Gun, but they're going to do it. Now, he did a couple other songs on the soundtrack to Top Gun that were actually pretty popular, but for me, Danger Zone was the one that pretty much pumped everybody up. And as soon as you hear the first few notes of that song, you know, you're ready to put on your dark glasses and just be right there in the danger zone with Tom Cruise. And that was such a fantastic soundtrack. You know what? I'm not even the greatest Top Gun fan. I mean, it was an okay movie. I sat in the theater like 4 or 5 times, but I saw everything in the theater back then 4 or 5 times because I'd go, then my cousin would go, my friends would go, and pretty much that's how we did it. I was a theater groupie back in the day. And you think with that one there'd be no way to top it, and there wasn't actually. He did go on to do a couple more movies, but even though the songs were decent, the movies themselves were unfortunately not Kenny's fault. We're not that well. We're not the greatest. In 1987, he did the song "Meet Me Halfway," which is actually a pretty decent song for the movie Over the Top, which is infamous for being the Sylvester Stallone movie where he has to arm wrestle for his kid. He gets the respect and custody of his child through professional arm wrestling. Somebody thought that was a good idea. And I'm sure in 1987, professional arm wrestling sounded like a good idea. I know I watched the movie in the theater twice, so yeah, I got kind of pumped. And you know what made me get pumped was the music. Because when you go back and watch the movie, it's really not that good. I mean, it's not a horrible movie, but it's not a good movie either. And back then in the 80s, music could go a long way in getting your movie through. Even when the movie sucked ass, if the soundtrack was good, you'd make your money back on the soundtrack. This happened a lot in the 80s. I mean, a lot. Unfortunately, Kenny Loggins' last big soundtrack was going to be in 1988, and it was a fantastic song. Nobody's Fool could get you pumped up to watch this movie like nothing else. It was an incredible song. It had a great upbeat tempo, very catchy. Kenny Loggins has that ability to make really catchy, really toe-tapping, really you want to listen to it. And okay, now I got to go see the movie songs. And this worked for me in Nobody's Fool. Unfortunately, the movie was Caddyshack 2. And Caddyshack 2 was known as one of the worst sequels of all time. It really is that bad. Almost everybody that was originally attached to Caddyshack 2 left. And the person that didn't leave just walked his way through. And that's Chevy Chase. And Chevy Chase is pretty much the only funny thing in Caddyshack 2 because everything else is strained and forced and doesn't really fit in or belong. And for a movie that was called Caddyshack 2, we really didn't care as much about the caddies in part 2 as we did in part 1. This was the Jackie Mason movie, and good Lord, it was a Jackie Mason movie. What were they thinking? This was supposed to be Rodney Dangerfield, but Rodney Dangerfield went out. So this movie, Caddyshack 2, has only one good thing going for it, and that is Kenny Loggins, Nobody's Fool. Would Kenny Loggins ever do anything else for soundtracks? Yeah, over the years he would do other things as well. Probably most famous is Return to Pooh Corner in the later years. But for those of us that grew up in the 80s, when we think soundtracks, when we think music, when we think something's going to make us want to buy the soundtrack, want to go to the movie, and sucked us in so many times for so many good movies like Caddyshack and Footloose, and even sucked us in for bad ones like Caddyshack 2 and Over the Top. Kenny Loggins was a master of it. And for that, I salute you tonight, Kenny Loggins, Kenneth Clark Loggins. Wherever you are, fantastic job. If you haven't listened to Kenny Loggins' music, if you're one of my younger viewers, check out his stuff. He's got some really upbeat stuff, some really good stuff, and you're going to leave watching that video wanting to see that movie. Because if you don't, no, you will. It is Kenny Loggins. And that is his mastery. That is his superpower. That is his mutant X ability. Thanks for watching. For me right now, it is time for tea and time to head into the danger zone.